Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Modern Math Teacher Podcast. I'm your host, Kristen Moore, and I'm really excited to be with you here today to share some amazing and engaging math activities from my classroom and classrooms of teachers I've worked with across the country straight to your classroom so that you have the exciting and engaging activities that you need to keep that excitement up and beat that post testing season burned out that we talked about last week. I am uh, not sure about you guys, but I already have a summer countdown going on. I have 38 days until summer at the time of this recording. And so I know that if I am counting down my days, I am gonna promise you my students are too, right? So we want to talk about some engaging math activities for the end of the school year to keep us all excited, all engaged, and all actively learning. Now, as we approach the final stretch of the school year, which we're in right now, it is crucial to keep our students engaged and motivated, especially as summer lies just ahead, right? Last week, we shared how to shake off that standardized testing blues and use our creativity to help keep our students engaged. And I wanted to expand on that this week for you guys and give you some actual hands on activities that you can do with your students. So, today, we are going to talk about some hands-on activities, some outdoor activities, all sorts of things that you can do with your classroom that offer that refreshing change of pace that we need this time of year. We're going to provide students with opportunities to explore math in a more tangible and fun and engaging way, right? So by stepping outside of our classroom walls, we're not only going to rekindle that excitement we talked about last week for learning, but we're also going to foster a deeper level of understanding and retention of math concepts. That's key here because they're about to enter summer. So we need them to think about these and remember them as long as they can. So let's go ahead and embrace this beautiful weather, this sunshine, and let's take our math adventures outdoors. Let's first talk about some exciting math activities that will keep your students engaged and enthusiastic as we count down to summer. These activities are not only fun, but they are meaningful and they incorporate interactive games, hands on experiments, and real world applications, right? Real, relevant, rigorous, the 3 R's of the reality check. This is going to bring math to life in your classroom and beyond. So, if you are teaching algebra, for example, one engaging activity you want to consider is the spread of disease glow powder activity. And this is inspired by my Going Viral project, which is a fantastic PBL experience for a deep exploration of exponential functions. But this is just a chunk of that, and it's a hands on experiment perfect for teachers focusing on exponential growth concepts. By simulating the spread of a contagious disease using glow powder, students are high fiving each other. It's an exciting time. Students explore the math behind the exponential growth and can understand its real world implications, right? Another fantastic way to do this is the Probability Fair project, which offers a carnival style twist on probability lessons. So, no matter what class you teach, I know probability comes up in middle school classrooms and in high school classrooms. You can take this project and run with it. Uh, Completed as either a project or just an in class activity, students become game designers as they create their own carnival games and calculate probabilities associated with each of these games. Not only do students get to flex their math muscles, they also get to unleash their creativity. This is a project we are embarking on with my Algebra 2 class in the upcoming weeks. I think from the time of this recording, that project is about 2 weeks out for us. It is always so fun to do with them, to see them get to express their creativity, design their own game, and then actually play that game. And what's cool is you get to, calculate the theoretical probability, get that good math behind it, but then they get to actually play the games with their classmates and get into that experimental probability and comparing those two different things. It can not only be just a lot of fun in the classroom, but it can spark really great discussions with your students. So, speaking of full class projects, let's not forget about the project of full project based learning units. You can totally kick that probability unit up a notch by creating a full project-based learning unit. Your students would then, in that case, design their own carnival-style games, complete with a colorful booth. They've got the rules out there, they've got prizes, and of course, they've got the math calculations, right? So, crafted for you and ready to go, this unit is a fantastic first dive into PBL as all the groundwork is laid out for you. If you want to do this in your classroom, grab this PBL from my store, plug and play your lessons into the project pathway, and you are going to have an awesome experience for probability with your students. Throughout the unit, your students are going to explore probability concepts as they plan, design, and analyze their games. And when it's time for the carnival, they are going to gather that experimental data, just like I mentioned, by playing each other's games, turning their classroom into a lively math fair. This is so fun. I like to grab a couple things from Amazon to make our whole classroom full carnival themed. So I'm really excited that this is where we are headed with my Algebra 2 class. I have used, and I obviously do use, all of these activities. These are all super fun, hands-on, real-world activities, and they're more than just a lesson, right? Whether you're doing the glow powder spread of disease, or you're talking about probability games, or you're doing a full-blown probability fair. These are experiences that are going to spark curiosity, foster collaboration, and deepen your students' understanding of these concepts. And by incorporating these super engaging activities into your end of the year curriculum, you can reignite that excitement in your classroom, not only for learning math, but it'll help keep your students motivated and engaged during this final stretch of the school year. Now, we also want to think it's a great time outside. I want to get outdoors. I bet the students want to get outdoors. So, speaking of taking our math beyond the classroom, let's explore ways to get it out into the actual real world. Let's explore ways to harness that spring fever our students are feeling and integrate outdoor learning experiences into our math instruction. Going outside does the world of good for everyone. I was outside actually writing these past couple podcast episodes because there's just something about the sun in your face, the breeze on your skin, the beautiful smell of the budding spring life around you that just gets you excited and makes you come alive, right? So, outdoor education in general is amazing. It offers a wealth of benefits for our students, including, increased engagement, improved motivation, enhanced learning outcomes, all things we want. So by stepping outside the confines of our classroom, and my classroom, you guys, does not even have windows. So my kids need to get outside, okay? When we get to step outside that classroom, our students are able to connect with nature, they can experience math in a new context, and they can develop a deeper appreciation for the subject because they see it actually being applied in the real physical world that they are standing in, right? So, listen, my friends, there are so many super cool and creative ways to incorporate outdoor math activities into our teaching. From nature walks to garden projects to geometric scavenger hunts, the possibilities are endless. It just depends on what kind of time you've got going on in your classroom. And if you've got a decent amount of time and you're a geometry teacher or a middle school teacher teaching geometry concepts, you might want to consider the Kite Project, which gets geometry students actively engaged in applying geometric concepts like polygons, similarity, and trigonometry outside of the classroom. By designing and flying their own kites, students can see firsthand how mathematical principles apply to real world situations. This is one of my favorite projects. It was one of the first projects I did when I started teaching math through project based learning. We flew our kites at a carnival, not a carnival, a kite festival, at a community park. And it was just so fun. Okay. My students created brochures that talked all about the different principles of flight and how their kites were working and why they chose the design they did. And it was a lot of fun and excitement and engagement for the students. And I love that it incorporates multiple aspects of geometry, really great for an end of the year assessment, even because we're working with polygons, quadrilaterals. You can have them measure with similarity, similar right triangles, or with trigonometry, or have them use both, right? So it incorporates a lot of those cool geometric concepts. And speaking of that, that brings me to another idea, which is that indirect measurement, which can challenge your Algebra 2 students to also apply trig ratios to calculate heights of objects outside of the classroom. We like to do this by measuring trees, and then we actually connect it back to what a tree is used for and how much each tree could be worth based on the different things that you could do with that tree. But honestly, just getting your kids outside and measuring things that they can't actually measure themselves. So go measure a flagpole, go measure the height of a building, go measure this tree over here, go measure that sign, right? They can use those trig ratios to calculate the heights of these objects outside of your classroom. They can, use shadows and trig, or you can create your own clinometer and some trigonometry, and students can determine the heights of all of these things. It's a great way to get a lot of good hands-on practice with those trig concepts. And bonus, if you have a geometry teacher bestie and you're teaching Algebra 2, you guys can collaborate together and have your students compare the calculations for the height of the kite. Geometry students are building their kites, Algebra 2 students are checking their height. It's a great opportunity for interdisciplinary learning and collaboration. Whew. Okay, well, we can't just leave all the fun to Algebra 2 and geometry, or, students who are focused on geometry in 8th grade as well. And, I know that the Rocket Project is typically an Algebra 2 project. That's when I teach it. But you can easily simplify it to use with Algebra 1 students. I've taught both courses. I know this works for both curriculums, okay? So focus on having your students use just the launch and the land times to write a quadratic equation in intercept form and create a very basic graph of their parabola. Okay, then you can have your students, your Algebra 1 students, create a poster with their data. They've got their table, they've got an equation, they now have this graph, and they're going to highlight the key characteristics of the graph. So talk about the domain and the range. Where is it increasing? Where is it decreasing? What's the maximum? How is that related to the vertex? What are the intercepts, right? Getting your students familiar with that vocab, and it also primes them for a deeper analysis of this project in Algebra 2. So, you guys, you can see by taking math outside of the classroom and into the great outdoors that we not only enrich our students' learning experiences, but we can also inspire them to look at the world through a mathematical lens. They will never see something off in the distance again and be like, man, I wonder how tall that is. They'll be like, ugh, I know exactly how I could figure out how tall that is. Are they going to do it right away? Probably not, but they will know that they could do it if they wanted to. Whew. Okay. This is a lot. These are a lot of projects, and I love them. That's why I love spring. Spring is such a great time to try these projects, these hands-on activities, these things that you maybe would have pushed off until after testing. And guess what, guys? It's after testing season. So full permission to go all in on a project or outdoor activity. And throughout this episode, you may have picked up on the fact that hands on learning is a pretty common theme for me here. It is woven into these strategies for taking math beyond the classroom into the great outdoors. And let's take a moment to highlight the importance of hands on learning experiences in math. In math education in particular, okay? There's some practical tips for using some hands on activities in our classroom instruction. Now, I know you can't always get outdoors, but you can always make math hands-on. Hands-on learning plays a really crucial role in math education because our students can then actively engage with math concepts in a tangible way. They can use that and manipulate things to develop problem-solving skills and make meaningful connections between these abstract ideas and these real-world applications. If you're giving your students your hands-on experiences, you are creating opportunities for them to explore, experiment, and discover math in a tangible, physical, kinesthetic way. And whether that is by building models, conducting experiments, or creating art projects, hands on activities bring math to life and make it more accessible and more engaging for your students. They're doing more than just thinking about the math, crunching the numbers. They are physically and physically actually invested in the work that they're doing. So, one hands-on project or activity to consider is the stained glass project, which can easily also be taken outdoors if you have that capability. Students can use watercolors or Sharpies to paint the stained glass, right? Creating beautiful works of art while also exploring math concepts. And the best part about this is you can modify the project to fit the type of equation and graph that you are working on, making it a truly customizable learning experience. You can always grab the stained glass project from my TPT store, More Than Just X, and it covers linear equations. It's got it in standard form, it's got it in slope intercept form, and it has it in point slope form. Great. Now that you have this basis for what this project is and what this rubric is, now it's the end of the year and you're studying exponentials or you're studying quadratics or you're studying polynomials. Do the same thing. use new equations, create new stained glass work, right? And have them get practice with it. Have them look at the transformations. Have them see how those different equations look like on a graph. Okay, so totally customizable to whatever it is that you are doing at the end of the year. Now, another really fun hands-on activity that I would encourage you to do if you teach geometry, or again, a middle school standard that's focusing on geometry, is constructing geometric shapes out of something fun like modeling clay. Or creating scale models of real world objects. That is always super fun. Or building like a three-dimensional graph to represent math functions. I know you've probably seen all sorts of like polynomial roller coaster projects. Like literally, that is a three-dimensional graph that's representing that function, right? So all of that allows your students to see and touch the math in action. Now, let's not forget about the power of experiments. Experiments are not just for the science classroom. Math is a science subject. We are just dealing with lots of numbers and problem solving in the real world, and we can explore and experiment in math class too. So again, we can explore things like probability by playing with dice or card games, or investigate the rate of change using motion sensors, or conducting surveys and collecting data on things. So many different experiments we could do with our students. These experiments are going to provide students with the opportunities to apply math concepts in a real world context and develop those critical thinking skills that we all want them to have. Now, we can see so many ways that incorporating hands on learning experiences into our math instruction can empower our students to become active participants in their own learning journey. Helps them foster that curiosity, that creativity, and they gain a deeper understanding of the math concepts. Whether you are having your students build kites, measure objects outside, create stained glass art. If you are having your students building and launch a rocket, even if you don't have them go through that whole build process and you just buy a bunch of these stomp rockets. So fun to do this with stomp rockets, right? Get your students outside, get them actively exploring the math. Get them hands on with it. Let them see that math is a tangible subject. It's not just this intangible nonsense of numbers that somehow work together, right? It's not just numbers and algorithms. It's real. It models the real world. That's how math came about. They studied the real world and they found a way to quantify it. It's so cool, guys. So, on that note, I think I'm going to wrap it up from here. I hope that you're feeling inspired and ready and excited to go take math out of your classroom, or at least to get really hands on with math inside your classroom. Whether that's exploring real world math connections outdoors and incorporating hands on activities, we've talked about a lot of different activities and strategies that you can use in your classrooms today. I'm going to make sure that any of the projects and activities I have mentioned are linked here in the show notes. So the probability experiments and projects, those will be linked. The kites will be linked. Stained glass will be linked. The spread of disease, glow powder activity will be linked. Anything I've mentioned, I will link in the show notes here to make it super easy for you to find if you were like, ooh, that's the one I want to use in my classroom. All right. Whew, okay, friends. If you want to get your hands on any of those resources, again, I'm going to link them below. And just for you guys, just for the end of the year, why not? I'm going to go ahead and put all of these on sale just for you, my podcast bestie. So when I have this podcast go live, I will have a 3-day sale on those products for 20% off. So if you are listening to this episode in real time, it is a Tuesday. And so Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this week, all of those products and projects will be at 20% off. Go grab them. I hope that it makes part of your spring teaching easier, helps you with your countdown to summer. I've got 38 days, my friend. Go ahead and let me know, how many days do you have, and how can I help make your transition and your countdown go by a little bit faster? All right. Thanks again so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Modern Math Teacher Podcast. Until next time, keep your spirits up, keep your sanity, keep the sun shining for all things, and of course, as always, keep it real. Bye, you guys.